everyone. This is Henny Espinosa with Just Wish Foundation. Today, we are joined by Scarlett Lewis, an activist, educator, and author who turned the darkest moment in her life into an opportunity to help heal the world one kid at a time. Scarlett, thank you so much for joining us on Just Wish.
Oh my gosh, it is such an honor. Thank you for having me.
Scarlett, take us back to that tragic day, December 14, 2012, right? At Sandy Hook Elementary School. This was during the deadliest mass shooting at an elementary school in the country in US history. And you found out that your 6-year-old son, Jesse, was one of the 26 people who were killed. I mean, we can only imagine kind of the unfathomable loss that you might have been going through at that time. But take us back to that moment. What was going through your head, through your heart at that moment?
Well, it was just, it's something that you never think is going to happen to you. And it is just so unfathomable that you, as Jesse's dad says, you drop your child off with a book bag and you pick him up in a body bag. It's just nothing that should be happening. It can be prevented. And the pain was so unbearable that I truly thought that I was going to dissolve. But at the same time, I had a 12-year-old son, Jesse's older brother, and he was actually with me at the school waiting for the news. We had waited all day, and he was there. And, you know, he said, he started to cry, and, you know, I'm a single mom. We were together. He said, I'm not sure this is going to be okay. And I had to make the decision then and there that, you know, that we are going to be okay, that, you know, we believe that Jesse is in a better place and that it's going to be harder for us, but that somehow we were going to make it through and we were going to find happiness and joy. We were going to live a good life. And it was just up to me to try to figure out how to do that and then how to model it for my son.
So how did you survive that day and the days that followed? I mean, where did you draw strength from?
Well, I have a strong faith, and I knew where Jesse was, and I have an incredible family and so many friends. You really find out just how strong your familiar ties are and how many friends that you have when something like that happens. I mean, I had childhood friends that were flying in and rushing to my side. It was really, really beautiful. I focused on gratitude. I focused on the love that I was receiving from the entire world. When something like that happens and there's a lot of media coverage, it just seems like everybody rises to the occasion and their best selves come out, and there's so much compassion. And I really focused on that, and then later keeping that going.
What were the kinds of emotions that you were going through at that moment?
I mean, I think that your body does something. It puts you into shock. You just can't believe this. I mean, you have your 6-year-old son with you one moment, and who rides still in a car seat, if you remember that. And then the next moment you're walking to your car and you see the car seat and there's no son. And you know, if any of you have 6-year-olds out there, and, you know, like Jesse was loud and he was lively and energetic and bouncing off the walls. If you can imagine going back to a house that's silent, it was incredibly difficult. And it was just heart-wrenching and excruciating is how I would describe that. You're not sure that you're going to survive the pain of the experience. It was very difficult.
And you take it kind of one day at a time, I'm assuming, right?
One moment at a time.
From
moment to moment.
That's true.
I mean, you know, what really kept me going was my older son, and knowing that I had to model for him what moving through this gracefully looked like, because I was teaching him in the moment how to move through difficulty, roadblocks, challenges in his own life. And that really helped me rise to the occasion and be the best version of myself in that moment.
In that moment, yeah. Tell us about Jesse's heroism that day. And when you had time to really sit down and people may have told you what happened, what they saw. Tell us how your young boy helped save lives that day.
It was incredible. We found out from investigators that Jesse had spent his last few moments. Now, if you can, just for 1 second, this is so painful, but, a former student shoots his way into the glass doors. He had attended that school. He knew where the first graders were. He had gone to school in those classrooms. His mother had taught at that school. He goes back. He makes a left down that first grade hallway. The principal and his former guidance counselor come out of a room where they're meeting with a parent on the right. He shoots them dead. He turns into Jesse's room, and he continues to shoot, most likely killing Jesse's teacher who was standing right behind him. And then his gun runs out of bullets. And during the short delay, when he changed his clip, which doesn't take that long, Jesse yelled for his friends to run, and he was able to save 9 of his classmates' lives. Wow. He is credited with that before losing his own. It's really absolutely incredible. He was 6 years old and stood up to a shooter that had just murdered 2 people right outside his doorway. Unfortunately, the loudspeaker was on throughout the school, so everyone was listening and terrified. And, the fact that he could do something in that moment so inspired me to stop making decisions in my life in fear and to move forward, choosing love from that point on, and spreading, a message that he left. And it really just shaped my entire focus, and really now the last 10 years of my life.
Yeah. I mean, that act was not just an act of courage. That was an act of love. He did because he loved the people around him. And
he did.
Tell us about the messages that Jesse left on your chalkboard. I think was it a few days before he passed, and kind of how that helped shape how you moved forward with the future in your own life.
Yes, absolutely. I came home a few days later and after the tragedy, and found this message that Jesse had written at some point shortly before the tragedy on our kitchen chalkboard in the, just the spray painted side of my oven, really. And he had written 3 words: nurturing, healing, love. And those 3 words were, phonetically spelled because he was in first grade and just learning to write. But I was absolutely stunned to my core, because not only did I believe that it was a spiritual awareness that he had, that he didn't have, maybe much longer. He wanted to leave a message of comfort for his family and friends. Those words aren't in the vernacular of
but 6 years later.
Amazing.
Say, wow, where did that come from?
Well, amazing. I mean, it didn't come from me. I would like to say that it did. Unfortunately, he wasn't studying that in school, so that came from a spiritual awareness within himself. But then I realized this is also the solution to, people had, of course, we'd been having conversations about how something like that could happen and why, and what we could do to solve it. Because obviously, kids killing themselves and each other at unprecedented rates, something's wrong, and there is a solution for it. And I realized that Jesse had left it on our kitchen chalkboard: nurturing, healing, love. I realized that if the shooter, in our case, his name is Adam Lanza, who lived in our community, if he had loved himself, if he had felt good about himself, which in turn then helps you love others, if he had been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, tragedy would never have happened.
Yeah.
And so I thought, wow, this is so simple. But simple isn't always easy. And I realized that was my marching orders from Jesse.
Yeah.
That was that became my purpose.
Yeah.
To spread this message of nurturing, healing love in schools, homes, and communities throughout the US and world. And that's exactly what I've done 24/7 for the last 10 years.
Wow. So tell us more about that. You became an advocate for, is it character, social, emotional development programs, right?
Yes.
Tell us about this, and how did this personally help you, and how you feel this will help others as well?
Well, I realized, Henny, what we had been doing up to that point wasn't working, clearly. And if you think about, where we are today, we have not only the highest levels of violence and in our schools as well, but also more drug overdoses than ever before in the history of mankind, more mental illness, even with easier lives based on technology. We have more pain, physical, mental, and emotional than ever before. And so I thought, I'm not going to lend my voice to something that doesn't work, that isn't working. And so I decided that instead of focusing on the problem, which all of the initiatives that we have developed to date pretty much do, if you think about it, the war on drugs, focused on drugs, and that is skyrocketed out of control. And so I thought, wow, there's so many things out there that are focusing on the problem. How about focus on the root cause that leads to the suffering that then escalates into all of these issues, by the way. And so I chose to focus on the root cause, and actually realized that it's pain and trauma and discomfort that lead to the anger, hatred, resentment that builds up into violence, substance abuse, a lot of mental illnesses, and discomfort. People don't have any way of managing their pain and discomfort. I mean, I'm actually right now in the hospital with my mom who broke her femur, and I'm looking at this board at the base of her bed, and it has this emoji pain scale. And, they ask every day, multiple times a day, how much pain are you in? And she points to an emoji, and, it's just like our emotional pain, actually. We all see the world through different lenses, and we all have varying levels of trauma. We know that now through research in trauma. And we need to we know that our kids are going to have pain in life. We don't want them to, but we know that they will. Physical, mental, and emotional. It's just part of being a human being. And so we need to fortify them with the skills and tools they need to not only manage that pain, by the way, but to learn from it, grow through it, and be strengthened by it. There's something called post-traumatic growth. We can actually grow through difficulty, roadblocks, challenges in our lives. In fact, that's why they're there as opportunities for growth. And we need to start teaching our kids this. So instead of when a difficulty or challenge comes up in their life, instead of them fearing it, resisting and avoiding, or maybe even numbing themselves, they have the courage to face it, kind of like Jesse did, and ask the question, how am I going to learn from this? How am I going to grow through this? How is this going to strengthen me? And then the most important question, and the reason that I think we're all here as human beings, is how can I take the wisdom that I've learned through this experience and use it to help other people? This is what the Choose Love movement seeks to do. This is our intention. And it's actually been incredible. We have now spread by word of mouth and referral of the program, which says something about the program, to over 10,000 schools throughout the US and 120 countries. And I will tell you
Wow.
why, why I think that is. And that is because we focus on love. Love is what connects us. We're stronger when we're together. Fear divides us. And actually, when you have some skills, tools, and awarenesses, you can choose love as a thoughtful response in any situation, circumstance, or interaction you have in your life. And love is always the strongest response.
I totally agree. And I feel like, when you go through so many emotions, when you encounter so many challenges, you forget that is your core, that should be your core. And it's within us, I feel. Like it
Oh,
just needs to
absolutely.
be, even the person that has been through so much in life, has seen so many, ugly things, can find beauty within. I feel you just need to dig deep, and
You need to have the awareness that that's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
You need to have the awareness that it's a choice.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work in prisons as well. In fact,
Oh,
we're
wow.
launching a Choose Love prison program.
Wow.
And I've been to my third graduation in New Hampshire. And what I've really taken away from that experience, and what these inmates have said, is that we didn't know we had a choice. All we ever knew was anger, hatred, and revenge. We never knew that love was a choice. And now that we know that it is, we want to do our part. We want to choose love. And
And you
it's
always
really
have that
incredible.
choice, right? You always have that choice.
Here's the thing, Henny. That is the secret to our personal power as human beings. We always have a choice. From the moment we get up in the morning, how we choose to even greet the day, to how we treat each other every day, all day long, even when someone is not kind to us. If we have the skills and tools to be able to pause before we respond and escalate things, if we have the skills and tools to pause and get curious about why they're behaving that way and thoughtfully respond with love and compassion. I mean, obviously, someone that's not kind isn't feeling good, because when you're choosing love for yourself, when you feel self-confident, when you're feeling good, you treat others well. So when someone doesn't, this is what we're trying to teach kids, that kids understand, wow, if someone is acting out their emotions in their behavior, then the way to choose love would be to thoughtfully respond with kindness. And that is the stronger approach. That's how you maintain your personal power, right?
Don't
exactly.
Respond to violence with violence, I guess. No.
Well, if you do, then no one wins. And if you thoughtfully respond with love, which is what we are teaching people to do in any situation, circumstance, or interaction. Remember, love is the strongest response. Anger, especially prolonged anger, hatred, revenge, that is when you are weakened. That's when you're in a reactive phase. And if you can control your state, if you can thoughtfully respond with love and kindness and compassion, then you maintain control in any situation. And that feels good. And you're able to spread this to other people, to model it. People are watching you. There is an absolute ripple effect. Can you imagine a world, Henny? And I'm trying to create the world that I want to live in, where everyone has the ability to thoughtfully respond with love. That world would not only be safe, but it would be a beautiful and peaceful place to live.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. That is, I hope we get to that point, because we have a long way to go, but with the people like you who are doing their part, I think we can get there, especially if you start with the young minds, with the young hearts. I mean, that's the way to do it. So the Jessie Lewis Choose Love movement has been around since 2013, right?
That is correct. Early in 2013, I was really focused on what I wanted to do almost right away, which is really a blessing. I say that the Choose Love movement started at Jessie's funeral. When I got up to speak, people had been asking me, what can we do? And I said, there is something that you can do. I said, this whole tragedy started with an angry thought in Adam Lanza's head. He was the shooter. And the amazing thing to me is that an angry thought can be changed. So I asked everybody, start thinking about what you think about and change one angry thought into a loving thought every day. You'll make yourself feel better. That will ripple out. So everybody went out and they did that. And a week later, I started getting calls, emails, texts saying that that one simple act had completely changed people's lives.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was onto something. And that's really one of the foundational components of the Choose Love movement. This stuff is simple stuff, but it's so powerful. And it literally has the ability to change your life for the better.
So how does that work, Scarlett? Do you guys go to schools? During the pandemic, like how did that impact your programs? How long is that? Is it a course or is it a one-time kind of speaking engagement? How does that work?
So it is all of that. Different schools have different cultures and different needs, but we have a lifespan program that is on our website, chooselovemovement.org, and it is no cost. So many of the programming that's out there is very expensive. In fact, my son's school had purchased a program, but they couldn't afford the training for it. And I was told it never got out of the box. And I thought, wow, our kids deserve so much more. I am going to create the best of the best program, synthesize everything into one, and I'm going to make it free because I know this would have saved my son's life. It would have saved Adam Lanza's life as well. And I know that it can reduce and prevent so much suffering that leads to all of these unfortunate outcomes. And so we made it no cost, and it is for schools, homes, and communities. We have programming that is a year long for every grade level. We have an infant toddler program because that's such an important part of brain development. I sent my kids to daycare and wish that they had this information. And then we have programming for the home that corresponds to what we're teaching in schools. And we're also doing a community program. And, yes, we go to the schools when requested, and I speak all over the world about this. And it's a very uplifting, very beautiful message that really resonates with everyone that hears it. And, this is all based on a very powerful formula that is derived from Jesse's message, Jesse's example of courage, and his chalkboard message. And this very powerful formula can be utilized in any setting, and it is neuroscientifically accurate, and it leads us to being able to thoughtfully respond with love. So in other words, take our personal power back in any situation, circumstance, or interaction we will ever face.
That's so true. Take it back. Take your personal power back. Yeah.
Yes, because you can't always choose what happens to you. And this is one of the main tenets of the Choose Love movement. But you can choose how you thoughtfully respond.
Yeah.
See, it's not really about what happens to us in life. There's so many bad things that happen to really, really good people. But it's not about what happens to us. It's about how we thoughtfully respond. And when we thoughtfully respond with love, we take our personal power back and we help ourselves to find joy and to move forward, in the best possible way with our best foot forward. And that ripples out to other people as well.
I think the key word there is thoughtfully too, because
that's right.
Before you act in whatever anger or, you know what I mean? You think first before you act.
You know what, honey? It's so interesting, but the way that our brains are designed, and we have some neuroscience that we teach the kids and adults as well, the way that our brains are designed, our brain's number one job is to keep us safe. And so our fear center in our brain is 4 times faster. It processes information 4 times faster than our prefrontal cortex, which, by the way, is our brake and where logic and reasoning reside. It's the brake for those impetuous reactions. But all this information is being processed by our fear center first. And so we really need to learn skills and tools, all of us. We need to just understand this. It's just an awareness. And then learn a few skills and tools so that you understand that when you're having a conflict with someone, an interaction, and that hair on the back of your neck stands up and your face starts to get red, and your brain wants to put up, I call it's metaphorical dukes, right? Wants to defend you. You need to take a breath and get in between what's happening and your thoughtful response and choose your response. That's when you're in control, and that's when you can choose love. You can de-escalate the situation and also offer comfort and support and compassion to the person who is hurting. You never know what the other person is going through. So it's really important to get curious about what that is and offer love and support if you can. That's choosing love.
Yeah. Does forgiveness play a big role in all of this?
Oh, gracious, yes, it does. Absolutely. So the formula is courage. Science says courage is like a muscle. We can practice it to strengthen it. And we need so much courage in our lives every day. The courage to put our best foot forward, the courage to do the right thing, not just what's easy, the courage to be our next character value, grateful, even when things aren't going your way. And then our next character value, the third one, is forgiveness. And this is so important. I realized so many people didn't understand this after the tragedy. I came out very early saying that I forgave Adam Lanza, and people still to this day are shocked by that decision. But that is because they don't understand the science behind forgiveness, the decades of research showing that when you choose to forgive, that the benefits are for the one who forgives. We kind of believe that that you give the person who hurt you, who doesn't deserve it. But in reality, when you look at the research, the gift is for the forgiver. And it frees me to be able to do what I do every day, to model for my son what choosing love looks like. It literally cuts the cord that attaches me to pain. If I hadn't forgiven, I would be giving the man who murdered my son control over my thoughts through anger, hatred, resentment, frustration. Those thoughts would impact how I feel. Those thoughts don't feel good. That would impact how I behaved and how I show up in my relationships. Forgiveness cuts that cord, that person that hurt you, the control that they have over your thoughts. It cuts that cord. It frees you to be able to move forward and to just let it go. And by the way, it doesn't mean that you can't hold the person who hurt you accountable. It doesn't mean that you don't remember. Of course you remember. It simply means that you're taking your personal power back. Control of your life. And let me tell you something, that feels really good.
Wow. Now that our world, the world that we exist in, mass shootings are still everywhere, Scarlett. I mean, gun violence is still very prevalent. Where do you hope to take this program so that more and more people are helped, more and more people are kept safe?
Well, the interesting thing is, Henny, we started off talking about how a lot of our reaction has been to focus on the problem. And so, there was already a big movement going when Sandy Hook happened to focus on guns. And I can tell you that in the last 10 years, what that has done is put more guns on the streets than ever before in the history of mankind. I think in the US, we have more guns than we have people, and it has somehow increased the violence. And so I think that what we really need to do is focus on the root cause of the suffering that leads someone to pick up a gun, to pick up a needle or a drug or a drink, the pain and anxiety that can actually lead to really serious mental illnesses, including suicide. And I think that, we need to shift our focus. And so I've been saying this for 10 years, and I hope that more people will listen. I know. Thank you for helping me spread this message. I think it's a really important message. I think doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is, someone said, right, the definition of insanity. I think that we need to shift our resources and our focus to the root cause. And, it's not a law. It's not a pill. It takes, personal responsibility. It takes a little amount of effort, but I'll tell you what, I choose love every single day. I didn't know these skills and tools before. I've learned them through helping to create this program. So, I say this helps kids and big kids, because if you didn't learn these skills and tools, then you might not have them. And, so.
And it's never too late to learn them, right?
It's never, well, I'm living proof it's never too late to learn. And so we can all utilize these really powerful, just simple learnings, and some of which I've shared with you today, and incorporate them in our lives. That addresses the root cause of suffering. And you can start doing it right away. And it feels good. I think that that's probably the most important thing. As human beings, we want to feel good. And when
it applies to everyone, Scarlett, this applies to everyone, not just
it really does
going through tough times.
It does.
It has to be a natural part of your life, so that you
live
life with love. It's
so true.
Yeah.
And when you choose love, that makes you more resilient. So if some bump in the road does come, you are better able to move through it more quickly. And, it's incredible. Oh, and I will say the last character value is, so we've got courage plus gratitude plus forgiveness plus compassion in action. And that is when we have the courage to step outside of our own busyness, distraction, even pain and suffering, like your founder has done, to help other people. And here's the key to this, and this is what the research says as well. When you have the courage to do that, all of the nurturing, healing love that you give out, you get back. And I know that Mr. Wu knows that. I know that you know that, Henny, with what you're doing. I know that with what I'm doing with the Choose Love movement. All the love and healing I give out, I get back. And what a gift that is.
What a gift. That's so true. I hope we will always choose love. I hope we will always take to heart what you've shared to the world. You've given us love, Scarlett. Thank you so much for all that you do. We're truly inspired by you. Mr. Jack Wu, he's all about that, giving love, and we want to do our part to give love back, and we want to do so with a monetary donation to Jesse Lewis Choose Love Movement. Keep doing what you do. More power to you, Scarlett. Always.
Thank you so much, Henny. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Wu. We are going to make the world a better place together, and it starts today. Thank you. I'm so grateful.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Scarlett.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Wanna see